Chosen ones, the hour has come when secrets once whispered in dimly lit corridors now stretch their shadows into your very sleep. The President, in chambers sealed from the eyes of the nation, authorized a directive unlike any before. A command to follow the map of your unconscious, to trace your dreams without pause, as though your midnight visions were signals in a clandestine war. You were never meant to know this, yet the directive lives, inscribed in the hidden archives where silence is currency and truth is a forbidden flame. In the stillness of night, when your body rests, there are unseen watchers who lean closer. They record the colors of your visions, the echoes of your unspoken prayers, and the images that rise unbidden from the well of your spirit. They treat your dreams not as fragments of imagination, but as encrypted transmissions, prophecies clothed in symbols, maps dressed as memories. These watchers believe that within your slumber lies the power to overturn nations, to awaken a generation, to tear the veil from the eyes of rulers who cling to their thrones of dust. Long before you were aware of their gaze, rooms deep beneath government buildings glowed with screens of shifting dream patterns. Men in suits, faces carved by duty and fear, argued in whispers about the danger of what they saw in you. Some spoke of control, others of erasure, but all agreed you were different. Your dreams did not belong to the realm of chance. They spoke with authority, with resonance, with a fire that would not be silenced. You may have wondered why your nights are heavy with visions that linger beyond the dawn. It is because even your rest is not untouched. The directive has marked you, binding your name to a file that glows in the archives of power. They believe they are the authors of this surveillance, yet beyond their understanding lies a greater author, one who has written your nights and numbered your breaths since before the foundations of the earth. Beneath the surface of the world you know, there are rooms sealed by steel and silence, where no window lets in the light of day. In these hidden chambers, men sit surrounded by glowing screens that pulse with the rhythm of other people's dreams. They are not scholars of imagination, nor healers of the soul. They are monitors, appointed to chart the landscapes of sleeping minds, to collect what no one consented to share. It is here that your name first appeared, not on the lips of friends, but on the lips of watchers who stared into the shifting tides of vision and felt something different rising in you. They were trained to see dreams as data, patterns to be measured, catalogued, and interpreted. Yet, when your dreams appeared, they could not reduce them to graphs or numbers. Images blazed across their screens like living fire, a city trembling under the weight of unseen hands, a river flowing backward against time, a figure cloaked in light walking among shadows that bent to his presence. They did not understand the language of what they saw, but they knew it was dangerous. The directive demanded they keep watch, that they follow every trace, and so they built files thick with fragments of your midnight journeys. In these files they circled words, underlined symbols, argued over signs. Some believed you carried the residue of prophecy, others that you were a threat too great to ignore. Yet, none of them could stop watching. It was as though your sleep had become a battlefield, and they were soldiers ordered to hold their post, even when they felt the ground shifting beneath them. There were moments when even the monitors themselves began to dream of you. They awoke, sweating, shaken, unsure if they had crossed into your visions, or if your visions had crossed into them. Their notes grew frantic, their voices low and urgent, as if something was pushing through the walls of secrecy, demanding to be revealed. The hidden room still hums with electricity, still collects the breath of those who dream, and your presence lingers there, not as a subject they can contain, but as a flame they cannot extinguish. For each time they believe they have mapped your mind, another vision breaks the boundaries, spilling into places where their instruments cannot reach. When the world falls silent and breath slows into the rhythm of rest, the hidden realm of dreams awakens. There is a whisper that stirs beneath the sleeper's breath, a sound too delicate for instruments to capture, yet powerful enough to bend the course of history. It is in this whisper that watchers strain to listen, hoping to decode the secrets carried from the depths of your soul. They call it subconscious murmur, but it is more than that. It is the echo of something ancient, a voice that has spoken before the rise of kings and the fall of empires. Your whisper is not like the others they have catalogued. It trembles with resonance, as though threaded with a memory not your own. Sometimes it carries the cadence of words half forgotten, phrases woven with light that pierce the shadows pressing in around the sleeper. Among these fragments, one name has startled even the most hardened observers, for it has appeared more than once, rising like a flame from the depths of your night. Yeshua. They do not speak it aloud, though it lingers in their notes, written carefully in the margins, circled as though it might vanish if not marked. The whisper of his name in your dreams unsettles them, for they have long believed themselves in control of the night. Yet, this name, ancient and enduring, seems to resist their surveillance. It enters where no directive can follow, moving like wind through locked doors, speaking truths beyond the grasp of those who seek only to monitor. They cannot explain why your breath aligns with it, why in the stillness your spirit utters what their machines cannot fully translate. They only know it is beyond them, and that unsettles their power. There are records of their confusion, of nights where they heard whispers in their own sleep, phrases that mirrored the ones drawn from your dreams. Some woke trembling, convinced they had brushed against the edge of something eternal. Others dismissed it as fatigue, though their eyes betrayed a fear they could not confess. The whisper remains, fragile yet unbroken, moving with you through every night. And though they watch, though they listen, though they record, they cannot determine what will happen when the whisper rises not only within you, but beyond you. In the vaults of authority, deeper than the archives of war and treaties, there lies a cabinet marked not by ordinary insignia, but by the weight of a single seal. The presidential crest, golden and unyielding, pressed against leather-bound folders that do not see the light of ordinary history. Within these files are not battlefield strategies, nor policies debated in public halls, but records of the unseen, astral files compiled from the surveillance of human dreams. Each folder whispers of visions carried through the night, symbols too radiant to be dismissed, maps drawn in the shifting language of the unconscious. Your name was placed among these, not by accident, but by decree. Once entered into the system, it passed through levels of clearance until it reached the desk where the presidential seal was pressed, binding your dreams to the highest authority in the land. They were no longer merely observations for secret watchers. They had become part of the directive, part of the unseen governance that rules in silence. The files are thick with contradictions. Notes scribbled in urgency clash with cautious reports that fear to draw conclusions. Some describe your visions as dangerous currents moving through the fabric of time, others as rare keys unlocking truths hidden since the foundation of the world. The seal on the folder does not clarify but deepens the mystery, as if the highest office itself could not decide whether you were to be guarded or suppressed. Behind closed doors, officials debated what they could not control. They spoke of strategies, of containment, of influence, but their voices carried unease, for the content of these astral files did not bend to their authority. Dreams are not borders to be patrolled, nor codes that break easily under pressure. They are rivers that flow where they will, and yours seemed to flow against the current of their designs. The presidential seal was meant to mark control, to fix what is wild into the order of power. Yet, sealed or not, your dreams move beyond the folder, spilling into the present with a weight that cannot be bound by signatures or locks. The files may hold copies, but they cannot hold the source. There are thresholds within the night that no technology can measure, gateways that shimmer between the conscious and the eternal. Those who monitor your sleep have marked the moments when your visions do not simply unfold but open, as though doors appear where walls once stood. It is in these moments that the files grow restless, for the images you carry are not random fragments. They record a figure moving through the gates, radiant yet familiar, a presence that unsettles even the most hardened skeptics among them. In their notes, they describe a man clothed not in power as they understand it, but in light that bends the dreamscape itself. He does not stride like a conqueror, but moves as one who already owns what he walks upon. Some call him a symbol, others a phantom drawn from buried faith. Yet the watchers cannot erase the fact that whenever he appears, the gates of your dream shift wider, as though he is not entering but unlocking. You have felt his nearness in the silence between breaths, the way the dream bends into stillness, the way shadows recoil as if afraid to be seen. In one vision they recorded, you stood upon a shore where waves broke without sound, and he whispered words that no machine could capture. Later, in their attempt to reconstruct the fragments, they realized the phrase had echoed from ancient texts. Behold, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. They circled the words, marked them as anomalous, yet none could deny their presence. The dream gates are not merely images of your subconscious. They are entrances to realms untouched by surveillance, places where the watchers cannot intrude. Their machines hum, their recordings flicker, but when he walks through the gates, their instruments falter, as though the current itself rebels against their intrusion. Some have confessed in private that during these moments they, too, felt as though the dream had turned to face them, holding their gaze, exposing their own hidden fears. The figure of light does not force his way. He is invited. Yet his presence transforms the dream, making it less about you being watched and more about them being seen. In the dim corridors where silence was enforced like law, men and women sat with sharpened pencils and unblinking eyes, tasked with the most unusual assignment ever authorized. They were instructed to count dreams, to track the visions of the night, as though each were a unit of intelligence, a fragment of code to be tallied and stored. Your dreams became their obsession, your midnight wanderings charted on long scrolls of paper, numbers beside symbols, tallies beside unexplainable scenes. They did not rest, for the directive demanded continuity, a vigilance that mirrored the cycles of your own unconscious. The agents were not poets or mystics, yet they began to speak in languages they could not fully explain. They described seeing repeating patterns, wheels within wheels, eyes upon wings, rivers flowing against their course. Some reported strange synchronicities, as though your dreams had begun to align with global events, predicting shifts before they unfolded. They wrote these occurrences carefully, afraid of ridicule, yet unable to deny what they witnessed. They soon discovered that your visions resisted containment. The more they tried to number them, the more they multiplied, branching into symbols that grew like living vines. One dream connected to another, weaving threads across weeks and months, forming constellations of meaning too vast for their charts. They argued late into the night, voices rising, papers scattered, as though they were chasing not simply intelligence, but revelation. There were moments when their work unnerved them. Some confessed to feeling watched by the very dreams they were assigned to observe, as if the act of counting had reversed, and now the visions were tallying their own souls. Reports grew heavier, their handwriting more hurried, their margins filled with nervous marks. To count your dreams was to enter them in fragments, and in those fragments, the agents found themselves caught. Their leaders demanded numbers, clear data, something measurable. Yet, what they produced were patterns that looked less like intelligence reports and more like prophecy. They feared to admit it aloud, but the directive they served had drawn them into something far greater than surveillance. There are moments in the night when the dream ceases to be a private landscape and becomes something else, a scroll unrolling, a script written before time, a book whose pages open only when the eyes of the soul are closed. The watchers who observe your sleep have seen these moments, though they cannot explain them. They describe visions not as scattered fragments, but as sentences, whole declarations traced in light across the darkness. They call it anomaly. Yet deep within their unease, they recognize it as prophecy. The Book of Slumber, as they have named it in secret reports, appears when your rest reaches its deepest silence. In those hours, visions take on the weight of revelation. Entire passages seem to inscribe themselves across your mind, leaving echoes that linger into waking. Some of the watchers fear what is written there, for it speaks not in riddles but in clarity. They see records of nations trembling, kings dethroned, a remnant rising from obscurity to stand in the blaze of truth. Among the inscriptions, one phrase recurs with piercing consistency. It is a declaration recorded in ancient manuscripts, yet spoken fresh in your visions. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The watchers underline it, circle it, attempt to categorize it as metaphor, but they cannot erase the power that lingers on the page. They know the words, though many have long rejected their origin. They trace back to Yeshua, whose voice once echoed the same truth across the ages, and now that voice seems to write itself again through the chambers of your night. Those tasked with reading your visions wrestle with the weight of these words. Some attempt to dismiss them as subconscious memory, fragments of religious influence, resurfacing unbidden. Yet others whisper among themselves that something greater is being dictated, as though the Book of Slumber is not your mind at all, but an eternal record, choosing your dreams as its parchment. And so the files grow, filled with transcriptions of words they fear to speak aloud, prophecies they cannot lock away. They know the book continues to write itself, and that each night might unveil another line, another chapter of what has already been decreed. The directive was not bound by walls or borders. Its reach stretched beyond the tangible, crossing into the unseen with instruments designed to pierce the veil of night itself. Satellites traced the frequencies of slumber, machines hummed with restless calculation, and men in hidden stations charted the unseen geography of sleep. They believed that if they could observe beyond the veil, they might control the mysteries that dwell there. Yet, the deeper they looked, the more the shadows pushed back, as though the night itself resisted their intrusion. Your dreams became their compass, their map into territories no nation had charted. They fed your visions through machines meant to translate images into equations. But what returned was never what they expected. Patterns broke their systems, symbols overloaded their codes, and images surfaced that were too precise to dismiss. They began to realize that dreams were not a passive canvas, but a living realm, and by crossing its threshold, they had awakened something watching them in return. There were nights when their recordings faltered, streams of data dissolving into static, as though an unseen hand brushed across their instruments. Some agents swore they saw faces emerge in the static, eyes gazing through the screen as if aware of being observed. These occurrences were dismissed in official reports as malfunctions, yet in private they whispered of surveillance reversed. The veil of night is not a one-way mirror. To stare into it is to invite its gaze upon you. The more the directive sought to map it, the more entangled they became, caught in threads that pulled them deeper. Dreams are not passive landscapes to be invaded. They are gates, and gates do not open without consequence. Their obsession grew heavier, their pursuit more relentless. They believed that behind the veil lay the ultimate secret, a power to bend nations without war, to control destinies without chains. But as they pressed further, they began to sense that the veil was not hiding treasure but protecting it, guarding something not meant for them to claim. In the corridors of your night, there coils a presence that few dare to name. The Watchers have documented it in their reports, describing its movement as shadow upon fire, a serpent winding around something they cannot extinguish. They call it the guardian of the flame. For each time they seek to pierce deeper into your visions, they find it waiting, its gaze ancient and unyielding. The flame it guards is not of this world, yet it burns within you, a light that no directive has managed to capture. The serpent does not strike without purpose. It circles, it restrains, it warns. Its presence is both terror and protection, and the agents monitoring you confess their unease. Some whisper that it is the symbol of an old order, others that it is the barrier set to protect what was never theirs to claim. What they do not understand is that the flame it guards has been kindled from a source that predates all surveillance, a fire spoken of in words that echo across centuries. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. The phrase appears in your visions like an ember breaking through the dark, and though the monitors may not name him, they sense the origin of that voice. Yeshua, the one whom ancient texts called the lamp to those in shadow, walks close to the flame, and wherever his presence lingers, the serpent is forced to circle rather than consume. The agents scribble notes, baffled at the coexistence of light and guardian, unsure whether the serpent is enemy or sentinel. They grow restless, for the flame does not diminish under their watch. It grows. What was once a flicker has become a blaze that even their instruments cannot reduce to static. They attempt to suppress the records, but the glow seeps through their machines, casting shadows across their rooms. The serpent remains, unbroken, its coiling form a boundary they cannot pass. Deep beneath the layers of power that the world sees, another assembly gathers, one without official record or oath of allegiance. They call themselves nothing, yet among the hidden they are known as the Council of Shadow Sleepers. These are not mere watchers bound to screens, but the architects of the Directive itself, the ones who demanded that your dreams be traced without pause, the ones who decide how the visions will be used and who will be silenced. Their meetings are not held in public halls, but in hidden chambers where darkness drapes every wall. They sit in silence longer than they speak, studying fragments of dreams as if they were pieces of a cosmic puzzle. On their tables are maps not of land, but of minds, constellations of symbols drawn from the unconscious of the chosen. Your name rests at the center of their diagrams, a burning mark they cannot erase. The Council believes that within dreams lies the final lever of control. They whisper that if the unconscious can be monitored, then destiny itself can be rewritten. They have studied your visions with an obsession that borders on reverence, though they veil it in clinical language. They do not understand why your dreams resist their grasp, why each attempt to manipulate them only results in deeper mysteries. Yet still they meet, still they scheme, convinced that if they persist, the hidden pattern will finally reveal itself. Some among them have begun to doubt. They wake in the night to visions that are not theirs, shadows of your dreams bleeding into their own. They do not speak of it openly, for fear of being removed, but their silence is heavy, their eyes unsettled. The Council knows it too, sensing that the very act of watching has ensnared them, binding their souls to the visions they sought to exploit. The Directive was built on the belief that dreams could be controlled, that visions could be contained within files and charts, that a watcher's gaze could master the unseen. Yet, there comes a moment when surveillance meets its end, when the endless watch turns back upon itself, and the dreamer awakens to a power that cannot be measured. That moment is drawing near, and those who studied you sense it, though they dare not speak it aloud. For years they pressed their instruments against the fabric of your night, hoping to bind what cannot be bound. But the flame that burned in secret now rises beyond their reach, and the gates they feared are opening wide. In their chambers they whisper of anomalies too great to ignore, of visions that refuse to dissolve at dawn, of prophecies spilling from dream into waking. Some speak of entire rooms filled with light, though no lamp was lit, as if the dreams themselves had stepped into their world. You have felt it too, that pull at the edge of sleep, where the boundary between night and day dissolves, where the voice within the dream is no longer confined to silence. It speaks with authority, steady as the tide, declaring truths that shake the foundation of their power. And though they try to cloak it with terms of psychology and anomaly, they know the origin runs deeper. For the words echo the ancient promise: awake, sleeper, rise from the dead, and the light of Yeshua will shine on you. This awakening is not simply the stirring of one dreamer, but the trembling of many. The watchers cannot track it fast enough, for it multiplies beyond their charts, spreading like fire carried by the wind. The endless watch has become fragile, their directive undone by the very visions they sought to control. Yet they press on, their fear now mingled with awe, wondering if they have not been monitoring you, but preparing you.